Everyone, and welcome to my channel, or welcome back if you've been here before. Today is going to be a little bit of a different video than I normally make, because it won't be a playthrough. It'll be me talking about the books I read last year. It's officially 2026. I'm filming on the 1st of January, so it's like literally just 2026. Besides playing video games, I really like reading, and so I thought it would be fun to talk about the books I read last year. My goal was to read 50 books, but unfortunately I was not able to reach that goal. There's a few months that I just didn't read a whole lot, so I read 46 books last year, and I wanted to talk about those books with you, to talk a little bit about what the books were, what they were about, and what I thought of them. Without, further ado, let's just look at the books. Okay, so the first book I read last year, or started reading last year, was Once Upon a Broken Heart. It's a book I read for my book club. Book club is loosely used. It's a group made up of me and my two best friends. We all love reading, so we figured why not read it together and call it a book club. But it's 3 people. It's not a big club, but the book we started reading first was Once Upon a Broken Heart. It's chosen by one of my friends. It's romantasy, which is not my genre. I'm not very particular about the genres I read. Throughout this video you'll see that it's like very diverse, because I read what I want to read and what I like reading. I don't really care too much about genre, though the most of the genres I do read are horror. It's just I read whatever I like reading at the time. But romantasy is a genre I don't necessarily like, but I figured, why not read it? It's for the book club, try and broaden my horizons, as they say. But yeah, this book was not for me, which I'm not very surprised by. It focuses on Evangeline, who is struggling with some personal issues. I'm also trying to think about how to talk about this book without spoiling anything, because I don't remember a whole lot about it, and I think that things that I do remember are later in the book, so I don't want to accidentally spoil it. Evangeline is dealing with some things, and she goes to find one of the, I don't know, I can't remember if they're angels or what their exact title is, but there's you have normal people and then you have people with specific powers, and they're higher up than people. They have a certain rank. These specific people are feared, and also I'm pretty sure there's a specific part of the country that doesn't believe in them, and then there's another country that does believe in them, or it's another part of the country. Let me start with the positives. I like the world building. I think it's a really neat idea that there's specific people with specific powers, and their personality is also derived of the power that they have, because with the power that they have there's also a consequence, a negative, and that negative kind of determines what their personality will be. At least it has impact on their personality and how they engage with others, which I thought that was very cool. I also really liked the divided part of no, there's a part that really believes in the magic and in the power that these people have, and then there's another part that doesn't really believe in it, or doesn't really care, doesn't really talk about it. I thought that was very cool, so I really liked the world building. I thought it was cool. That's also the only positive thing I have to say about this book, because I didn't like it. It wasn't for me, which again, I'm not surprised by, because I don't necessarily like romantasy, for a specific reason, and I think this book also suffers from that reason, is because you have such a cool and interesting world, and the entire focus of the book is the relationship, or the potential relationship. But it's, in my opinion, it's forced, because it's constantly about that. You have Evangeline, who's very smart, and she's supposed to be figuring things out, and she's also the main character in a fantasy novel, so of course she's smart and tiny but very strong, that type of vibe. which is also not necessarily my thing, but that's another point. But she's supposed to be smart, but her entire mind constantly goes to like a few guys. Like throughout the story, that the guy that is on her mind changes with the story, which also makes sense because of the relationship she's building along the way. But like that takes up like 80% of her mind, is just the guy that she's then thinking of or like having to deal with. And I'm like, really? That's the only thing she has on her mind? Not this entire world around her or like the magic, nothing like that. It's mostly focused on the guy, and I don't care. I wanted to know more about her personality and like the world in itself and what she thinks of the world and everything, but it's just despite being the main character, there's not a whole lot about her personally, like who she is as a person. It's mostly about the guy and her relationship to the guy, and I just don't care. So yeah, I didn't like it. It's not my vibe. But I will say, if you like romantasy, you would probably like this book. It's just, I don't necessarily like romantasy, so it wasn't for me. Should have prefaced it at the beginning, but I'll preface it now. These are my opinions. Like, if you absolutely love and adore one of the books that I'm going to be talking about and I say something negative about it, that is just my opinion. It's no hate. Whatever floats your boat, whatever tickles your fancy, I don't care. You should read whatever you want to read. And I try to broaden my horizons by reading different genres. And sometimes I find books that are just not for me. And this was one of those books. Let's see what's... The next book I read was Whalefall. This is, I think, like a sci-fi contemporary novel. And it's about this young man. I forgot his name, I'm so sorry. But his father passes away. And while he didn't have a great relationship with his father, he wanted to do like one last thing and go on a particular dive, because his father was a really big diver. He doesn't just go on a big dive, he goes on this dive to, I'm pretty sure, like spread either his ashes or like a bone or something of his father. He goes to spread in the ocean because he was such a big diver and he really loved the ocean, so he wants to do this one last thing for his dad. While he goes to dive, due to the weather circumstances, he gets swallowed by a whale, and then the rest of the book is like, what the hell is he gonna do to get out of this situation? It's a very interesting book. I liked it. It is a bit weird at points, but I liked it. I also like the aspect of like the grief, but specifically like grief when the person you are grieving you weren't close with, because I think that's like a specific type of complex emotion. It's like, it's such a complex thing, right? Grief in itself is a complex thing, but especially grief when you have like complicated feelings already towards that person, that like makes it extra complicated to grieve them and how you go about that. So I think that the book did that very interestingly. I will say the main character isn't necessarily very fleshed out. It's mostly about, throughout the chapters, like the chapters switch between like present day and past, so you learn a lot about the main character and his relationship with his father and his other family members and how that all changes and everything. So I really liked the pacing and everything of that, but you don't necessarily learn a whole lot about the main character like as a person, because it's mostly focused about his relationship between others, not necessarily the relationship he has with himself. So I think I would have liked to see more of that, but I thought it was very interesting. It was a good book. I liked it. It was also very claustrophobic, like the thought of just being in like an enclosed space. That was nasty, but I liked it. I thought it was a very good book. Then I read The Trees, which is a novel by Percival Everett, and I'm not gonna say too much about this book, like what it's about, because that'll spoil it too much, and I don't want to spoil it because it's a very interesting book. Because there's like a small town where a bunch of racist white people start dying, and I think the MBI, the detectives, start investigating the murders. But there's one interesting notion about the murders, is that every time like one of these people dies, there's another body, and it's a body that it resembles closely to Emmett Till, if I remember his name correctly. And Emmett Till was a young black man who was murdered like in the book time many years ago, but a body resembling him starts popping up at the murder scenes of like the racist white people. And so the detectives have to figure out what the hell is happening. Are they connected? Like, why is the body, or why is a body like popping up every time? What's going on? And so they have to figure out exactly that with the help of the people that are living there. So like the local police department and the local morgue and everything, they have to work with that, but also just like the locals, because they also know a lot about the history. I think it's a very good and interesting novel about racism and police brutality and police violence. I thought it was a very good book. Very interesting, because it went a way that I did not think it would go. So it's very good. I liked it and I recommend it, which is why I won't say anything more about it. Next book, Out There Screaming. This is a horror anthology. So it's specifically like it's short stories. It's edited by Jordan Peele, who makes incredible movies. So the moment I saw that, I was like, you know what, absolutely, I will read this book. As it says on the screen, it's an anthology of new black horror, because all the short stories are written by black people who are new to the industry, I think, or at least like maybe new to like short story writing. But I really liked it. There's like quite a few stories in there that were like, oh, what the fuck? Which is good, which is very good. Like in a horror story, I think you kind of want the wait, what kind of vibe. So yeah, I liked it. I mean, it's a short story like collection, so there's also always like one or two stories that maybe don't necessarily like I don't necessarily match with too much. Overall, I really like the short stories. Thought they were very good, very creepy, very weird. So I really like this book. And if you like creepy and weird horror, specifically like if you've watched Jordan Peele movies, I think you'll like the collection of short stories that are in this book. Would recommend. I liked it. I thought it was very cool. The next book I read was another book that was for the book club, another romance essay, which is Defy the Night. This is also a book that I did not necessarily like too much, which is sad, because I do think that in this instance as well, there's like a good basis for a very interesting fantasy novel, but because like a romance aspect takes the front, I think it misses quite a bit. But there's another part of this book that I just don't like that I'll get into later. Defy the Night is essentially about a girl, I think her name's Tessa, if I remember correctly, that is trespassing into like a specific part of the kingdom to collect a very specific flower. The reason why she is collecting that flower is because that flower it's a remedy. The flower creates a remedy for a sickness that is like going around the entire kingdom. The entire kingdom, except for like the direct area around the palace. And so you read mostly as Tessa, like her perspective, but you also read this perspective of Prince Karig, I think his name is. They had interesting names, but he is the brother of the king, and his brother had to take the throne because their parents were murdered. The king is like really harsh, like especially with like who can get the flower and who can get the medicine that they can make with the flower. And so essentially like his kingdom is essentially falling apart. People are dying left, right, and center. There's also like a lot of people being murdered by by the guard. King's guard is really, they're very brutal. Tessa is rebelling by just stealing the flower and giving it to the people that need it. You know what? I'm gonna share my gripe that I have with this book. That is a spoiler. So if you are interested in reading this book, if you think like, oh yeah, no, I want to read it, or it's on your TBR, skip to the next book, because I'm gonna spoil this book. My biggest gripe that I have with this book is like Prince Karig is okay, so Tessa doesn't do the work alone. Tessa does it with the guy. I can't remember his name. They work together to collect the flower and spread the medicine around and everything. Later on in the book, you learn that the guy that is doing all that is Prince Korik. Like, he's disguising himself as the dude to help spread around the medicine to the other people. And that pisses me off because I'm like, motherfucker, you are in the kingdom. You are the king's right hand. Multiple times it's like stated that he's like the right hand, like he's the one like in the rooms that also will sometimes speak for the king. Like he's present during meetings and everything and all that shit, and he's disguising himself and camouflaging it to spread the medicine around that way because there's nothing he could do to, I don't know, have the fucking king spread it around more, be kinder, be less brutal. No, he's like, no, this is the only way, there's nothing we can do. And then the people in the kingdom are oppressed, right? There's like a violent king's guard, they don't have medicine, it's like people are dying left, right, and center. So there's like a rebellion that genuinely starts, and that's a violent rebellion because it's oppressed people. If you oppress people long enough, they're gonna become violent at some point to try and get their like safety and their like just their rights. That makes sense. If you oppress people long enough, they're gonna eventually push back, and that often comes with violence because you have always been violent to them. So it's like, how you can't talk about it because you've taken away that option by being violent to them. So in order for them to get somewhere, they have to be violent as well, right? That's just how it works when you oppress a bunch of people. It's gonna get violent. This book is trying to say in the end, because it's like in the end they have like the rebellion and the king and everything like at a standoff, and it's like, well, we both equally did bad things, so we're just gonna put that behind us and get further and everything. And I'm like, the fuck do you mean we both equally did bad things? The king and his kingdom and his king's guard and everything oppressed these people for fucking years, right? Because everything was good, everything went well when his parents were still alive. When they were murdered, he became like ruthless because I think in his mind it was like, well, they were kind and they were murdered, so like to avoid that happening, I'm gonna be ruthless, which also doesn't make any fucking sense. But that just pissed me off so much because it was like, no, it was never an equal fight. You have the entire King's Guard, you have like a fucking army, you have the medicine, you have the money, you have like the accomplices of the other kingdoms around you. Like you have, as the king and as the kingdom, you have so many more resources than this small rebellion does. So it was never an equal standoff. But this book really wants you to believe that it was an equal standoff, that it was equal, that the rebellion was just as wrong as the kingdom. They just have to work together to get somewhere, which, like, yeah, that is true. Like they do have to work together to get somewhere, but it was never equal. Like it was never an equal fight. The kingdom always had the upper hand because they just have that many more resources. And it just, like, I liked this book quite a bit until it came to the point that it was like, yeah, no, the prince is the person that's spreading the wealth around because he doesn't see any other option to do it any other way. Mind you, like, when he's in his prince role, he is known to be like the most ruthless, right? He's the most violent person. Like he's actually like, that's like, I think his nickname is like, I don't know exactly what it was, but his nickname had to do with how violent he was. People are terrified of him. And then, like, to make up for it, in his spare time, he'll spread around a little bit of medicine so that like 5 people make it. And it's like, how do you think this makes up for that? It's like, there's too many things where they're like, well, it's equal. And it's like, no, it's not equal. The bad that he does, or like the good that he does as like when he's disguised, does not make up for all the bad shit that he does as his prince role. Good that they will now do, like the spreading of the medicine, does not make up for all the fucking hurt and suffering they've caused them for years. And it annoys me that it was like, Yeah, no, actually, we're good. We're good. What the fuck do you mean you're good? I don't think you are. And as you can tell, I'm annoyed with this book. I did not like that, because again, it was never equal, and I don't like that it was, we were made to believe that it was equal. And I'm like, no, you can't get me. You can't get me. It was never equal. That's just my big gripe with this book, and also why I just didn't like it. Like, I thought at first it was very interesting, like with the flower and everything, and like the medicine, and I was really interested to see how it was going to go, but then it went that way, and I was just like, no, I don't like it. I don't care to read more about it. So I did not finish the series. This is the only book I read, and that's enough for me. Next up, I read Has Anyone Seen Charlotte Salter? And this is like a mystery novel, like a thriller mystery novel. And you read the perspective mostly from her daughter's point of view, from Eddie, and how everything goes. Because Charlotte Salter, as it's read on the title, loved by all who meet her, but someone wants her gone. Because Charlotte Salter disappears after a birthday party for her husband. Like, nobody's seen her after that birthday party, and she just disappears. And you read the book, like how they deal with like the aftermath of that, and then the other half of the book is like an actual detective coming in to investigate the case. I thought that would happen like earlier, like the case and everything would be investigated earlier, but it took a while for the detective to get introduced into the story. And that's, I think, also one of the things I don't really like about this book is the pacing. I mean, I know that Nikki French is like very popular, like as a thriller author. I've seen books by them a long time, like quite a few books I've seen. This is, I think, the first book I read by them, and I did not necessarily like it too much. Like, it wasn't a bad book. I should say that first. Like, it's not a bad book. It's an interesting book, but it's just, it takes a while to get anywhere. Like, I don't really like the pacing, because we learn a lot about the family and like the family dynamics and what everybody's thinking and everything. We also learn quite a bit about the private life of the detective. Again, before the detective gets into the story, like we're quite far in the book. I would almost dare to say like halfway through the book before she gets introduced. Something I don't really like. And for this specific book, I didn't necessarily really like the ending. I thought that one just came out of nowhere. I love a good plot twist, don't get me wrong. I love thriller books and horror movies and horror books where like there's a plot twist. I love a good plot twist. However, I need a plot twist that technically I could see coming if I noticed all the signs, right? If you are very keen and you're picking up everything and you able to figure it out who it is, like right before the reveal. You get the last line and you're like, oh my god, I think it's this person. And then you flip the next page and it's like, it's this person. And you're like, I got it. I figured it out. I really like those plot twists because it's like, you've been building it up well enough that it's like, if you actually follow all the clues, you're able to figure it out. I don't like plot twists that are just like trying to deceive the reader, which I don't necessarily think that this was a plot twist that was like, oh, we're trying to deceive the reader. But this was just, in my opinion, a plot twist that just was not built in very well. I don't think there were enough clues and connections. You learn that after the plot twist, but I kind of wanted to know a little bit more about that before the plot twist, so that the plot twist makes a little more sense. But yeah, wasn't a terrible book, just wasn't my favorite. Then I read Ghost Station, a horror book where the main character is a doctor, I believe, who specializes in a specific type of mental illness or mental disorder that people can get from being isolated. If I remember correctly, it's been a while since I read this book because I'm going through it when I read it in the year. Hi, Editor B here. So I didn't remember correctly. I actually mixed up the book that I read from her before, which is Dead Silence, and that's also a book that takes place in space. So I mixed the two up and I explained the entirety of that book and not this book. So here's a very simple explanation about what this book is about. I was correct. The main character, Ophelia, is a doctor and she specializes in a mental illness or a mental disorder. She goes on this trip with a small crew to keep an eye on them so that they don't develop this illness, because people that have had this illness, like there's been a big case where someone has had this mental illness and killed, like massacred a bunch of people. So she wants to make sure that it doesn't happen again, and she goes with a small crew to assist them in their case, but this crew is like investigating an abandoned planet. And that's a very, very short explanation about this book. Shenanigans ensue. I mean, it's a horror novel, so you can imagine shit goes wrong. It's interesting. I don't think it's my favorite, but it's a very interesting like space horror novel, which I do like. I like it because it feels extra claustrophobic because you can't go anywhere. You're stuck. Like, you can't go outside because if you go outside, you die. I really like very claustrophobic horror because it makes me feel extra scared and extra nervous. I don't know what that says about me, but I do like it. So yeah, I like this book. The ending and the plot twist and the reveal, I mean, it was okay, but I liked the book. I thought it was creepy. And then I read the incredible novel Sunrise on the Reaping, which, to be honest, everybody and their mother read, but it's such a good book. Oh my god. I read all of the Hunger Games novels, and I also read A Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes book. I really liked that book. I thought it was very interesting, but this one, I like this one better than I like A Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, because this is just, it's so good and it's so heartbreaking and it makes so much sense why Haymitch is the way Haymitch is. It broke my fucking heart and I can't wait for the movie to break my heart again. I know it's gonna be fantastic. And oh my god, I've seen like the trailer and the pictures, and all the children actually looked like children, and that's gonna hurt even more. But yeah, no, this book is fucking fantastic. I thought it was very, very well done. It's incredible. It's so good. I also think it's like a really interesting perspective to show that the rebellion like has been building for years, like for decades, before it like gets to the Hunger Games series, like when Katniss actually kickstarts the rebellion like fully, like because it starts in this book. We read about it in here. This is like this is not even the starting point. It's just we read about it here. So it's been going on for so many years before it like actually has a direct impact. And I thought that was very, very interesting and very well done. So yeah, love this book. Love, love, love. I also read The Last Bloodcarver. This book was recommended to me by one of my best friends, and I'm so glad she recommended this book to me because it was fantastic. This book is a fantasy novel, and it's from the perspective of the main character that you see on the cover, Nika. I think you pronounce it Nika. I'm so sorry if I'm pronouncing things wrong. And Nika is a bloodcarver, and what that means is that she can alter like a person's biology with just a single touch. And bloodcarvers are feared because of this power that they have. She uses her blood carving to get by because she is in Thumas. I think that's how you pronounce it. She's in Thumas, but she's originally from a place called Yarong, but that country is currently at war, so she fled with her family due to circumstances. She's the only one left in Thumas, so she has to get by, and she uses her blood carving to do so. But then in Thumas she meets Van Kochen. He's kind of very cold and distant to Nika, but yeah, you essentially just, there's a whole lot more that takes place, but I also don't want to spoil it because this is a book I would highly recommend because I think the fantasy and the writing and the story, it's an incredible book. I really, really like this book. The story is mostly about Nika and trying to survive in Thumas, and that's all I have to say about the story so that I don't spoil it. But yeah, I highly recommend this. It's very cool. I think Like I said, I think the mystical aspect like of her powers and everything is so very well written and thought out, because you really learn a lot about how it works, which I think is really cool. I like the dynamics between all the characters. I really like Nika as a main character. You learn a lot about what she thinks is important and her main goals and everything in life. I highly recommend. I think it's very good. And then I read The Book That Wouldn't Burn. Well, I started reading it. This book took me forever to finish because it's just such a long-winded book, and I did finish it. It was, I think, one of my friends this book for our book club. It's an interesting concept, I'll say that. It's a very interesting concept. However, Jesus Christ, this book was way too fucking long. It was so long. It was not, but that's also okay. It wasn't just long, it was long-winded. Right? Because I can read long novels and long books. I don't care. Like, I love Babel by Arif Kwong, and that book is also massive. I've read The Daughter of the Moon Goddess by Sun Lin Tan, and that's an incredible book. It's also very long. Right? Legend Born is an incredible book. It's also very long. I have nothing against long books. I do, however, have something against long-winded books, because that just means that you're taking too long to get to a specific point. I read it. I didn't hate it. I'll say that though. I didn't hate it. I think it was, again, it was interesting. It was just long-winded and took me so long to get through because it was so long-winded. At a certain point when things do kick off, it's like, then it became sort of easy to read through, but I think it took like half the book to get to that point. The last 250 pages, like, yeah, that read okay. That was like, I was able to get into the story more, but it's long-winded, and it takes, or at least it took me a long time to actually get into the story. And I did like the story. I think it's very interesting, the way this book goes, because you read from two different perspectives. You read the perspective of Avar and Livera, and those are like two very different perspectives, because Avar is stuck in a library. He was brought there in the machine. What that is, I couldn't tell you. But he was brought there in the machine, and he's there with a few others. This machine allows you the ability to take a book in, and then you do a bunch of things in there, and you come up with the knowledge that you got from the book and like the skills that are in the book. What's also interesting about that is that the other people that Avar's around, they have their memories. Avar does not. He does not have any memories, and so he doesn't go into the machine because he's like scared that he's going to be missing even more when he comes back out, because clearly the machine does not like him because it gave him no memories when it brought him into this library. They can also not leave this library. It's completely blocked off. Like, it goes on for miles and miles and miles, but it's like completely blocked off. They can't go anywhere. And then you have Livera, and she lived in a small town in the dust that was attacked by a specific type of creatures that I cannot remember the name of. I'm so sorry. But she was attacked and then brought into a specific village, and you read about her path in that village and whatever goes on in there. Yeah, you read their perspectives, and I think it's really interesting, but it's long-winded. It took me too long to get into, and while I did like the story and I thought it was interesting, I'm not interested enough to read the other books. I'm just not. It took me too long to get interested in what was going on in this book to get interested in reading what's going on in the other books. So no, not for me. And then I read a nonfiction book, The House of My Mother. I read this and I had the audiobook for it, which with nonfiction, I do like listening to the audiobook because it's oftentimes the person that wrote it that's telling the story, which I think adds another layer to it. The book written by Sherry Frankie about her life as one of the kids of the 8 Passengers family. And holy fucking shit, it's so messed up. Like, of course there's information out there, and there's like the documentary and everything, so we all know how that it's fucked up. right? That's common knowledge that what happened there was fucked up. But listening specifically to how they treated Sherry, she mostly does it about her perspective. She doesn't really talk about what happened with her siblings to protect her siblings, because it's like they already went through so much, and so if they ever want to tell their story, that it would be in like their choice and in their hands. So she doesn't really talk about them, but she does talk about a little bit about her brother Chad, because like he was the oldest son. There was like sometimes a connection between like the abuse that they suffered, to hear all the shit that she went through. It's fucking insane. Like it's just it's the fact that someone would do this point is insane. But the fact that someone would do this to their own children, I don't know, man. It's crazy. It's crazy. I have no words for it. I thought it was very well written. Glad that she was able to do this like herself. She was able to bring out something about her life herself. She was in control in this situation. So I think that was very interesting. If you haven't read the book, or you don't know a whole lot of information about what happened with 8 passengers and like the abuse that they suffered, I do highly recommend the book or the audiobook. They're both very good. Then something lighthearted to, you know, deal with the very difficult book that we just read, Spooky Lakes. This is a book that has like a bunch of interesting facts about lakes and water, bodies of water that are in and around our Earth. And it's done by Geo, who also does Spooky Lakes every day for the entire month of October every year. She has a bunch of videos and they're always so interesting. Like when it's October, the Spooky Lake month like starts, and I'm so ready for it every year. I love watching her videos. She always does it so fun, but like with this art style too, I thought it was incredible. It's so well done. I really like this book. It's a very short book that has a bunch of drawings and like facts and everything, but I did really like reading about all the facts about the different lakes that are on our planet, because a lot of them it's like, what the fuck? It's crazy what's happening like in the water, or what's like what you can find underwater and stuff. It's cool. I liked it. It's very cool. Then I read the second book of the duology for The Last Bloodcarver, which is his Mortal Demise. I won't say too much about this book because that spoils how the last book ended, but just know that this book was also fucking fantastic. I thought it was very well done. I think it's a really good like progression of the last book. I thought it was incredible. So highly recommend this book if you've read the first one. That's all I'll say about that, because I don't want to spoil it. I don't know if you can hear the fireworks going off. People are still lighting fireworks, I guess. Then I read Beartown, and I have a bone to pick with this fucking book. Oh my god, I DNF'd this book. This is the only book I DNF'd, but I will count it that I read it because I DNF'd it at 50%. So I read too much of this fucking book to not count it, okay? I went through too much trouble with this book to not count it. So yeah, even though it's a DNF, I'm absolutely counting it as I've read this book. What's Beartown? Beartown is like, I don't know, contemporary fiction, I guess? Maybe it's a thriller? No, it's not. It's contemporary. Or it's fiction. I don't know if it's contemporary. I think it's just fiction. I don't know. I don't really care. It's a book about hockey. And I think it starts off really interesting because if I remember correctly, it starts off with like a sentence of like, someone was shot and how did we get there? And then like, that's the opening. Like, someone's shot. That's a good opening. And then it just goes nowhere. It goes nowhere. Genuinely, like, for 50% of this book, because there's like a specific part that happens at the 50%, which is why I DNF'd it, which I will get to, and there will be another spoiler warning when I get to that point. But this, like 50% or one, because I read 50% of this book, so I can only talk about the first 50% of this book. This book is about hockey. That's it. It's about hockey, how it's important to the town, how everybody loves hockey, how everybody's sacrificing their entire life for hockey. It's just about hockey, not necessarily about how you play hockey, rules and shit and everything. That's not explained. It's about hockey. And I personally, I didn't care. I didn't care, because it's not only about hockey, it's about a specific game that's going to be coming up. A specific hockey game that's coming up that's so important for the town, because it's going to put the town back on the map, and people are going to come here, and then we can build like all the massive things that we want, and we can get rich, and that's like the big thing. I did not care. I'm not from that town. I don't give a flying fuck if it's put back on the map or not. I did not care. Not at all. Just like not even an ounce could I care about this. And I think that may also be that also may have to do with the fact that you read like 50 people. Like, okay, that's an exaggeration, but I think there's genuinely like 12 perspectives that you read. You read as like the point of view of like 12 people who all just, their main goal in life is hockey. And this specific hockey game, like there's very few other interests and like aspects of their lives that are discussed. And normally I'm not, like, I don't mind multiple perspectives. I think that can be very interesting. But in this case, it was too many, and you switched too many times. Like in one chapter, you could switch like 15 times back and forth, because it'll just be like just a specific part of the story that's like person A, and then person B, then person A, then person C, then person F. Like it switches out so many times. Honestly, I got like, it's just like, it's watching tennis. I get like, just, okay, we're there. Now we're there. Now we're there. Now we're there. It was so confusing with how many perspectives you had. That was just, and it's, if everybody had something interesting to say, then that's okay. But it's like, it's not. They don't have anything interesting to say. It's just what's happening at that point, which is hockey, because that's the main thing of this book, is hockey. Which, I mean, fine, fair. This book was also, by the way, a book for our book club, because otherwise I would never have read this book, I don't think. But it's just, it's mostly hockey. And I think if this were like a TV show or something, then maybe that would work, because it's basically written like a script where everybody just has their like things that they can say and everything. But it's just hockey. There's no conflict until you get to 50%. And I'm going to spoil this book because I did not fucking like this twist, like the essentially like the catalyst for the conflict that's gonna come in later, I guess. I don't know how it ends, so I don't know if it's actually a catalyst, but it's a big point in the book and I don't like it. So, spoiler warning, I'm going to be spoiling like a big point that happens in the middle of this book. The entire book, or at least for the first half of the book, it's continuously talked about this big game that they have to do, because if they win this game, then they can put the town back on the map, because in Beartown, like they are like a very tight-knit community, but tourism is really at its dead end. Like they are not making a lot of money, and there was supposed to be like, I think like a big thing that was going to be happening that like made for a lot of people, like so that they could work, but I'm not entirely sure if that happened or not or whatever. So what they want to do is they essentially want like a really big mall with a bunch of stores so that there's work for the people in the town, but so that there's also more tourism. In order to get financing for this mall, they have to win the game. So that there's more attention, because they need more attention on the town before they can get financing for the mall. Because right now nobody cares. Like, nobody cares about this town. It's like a wintry town, but there's not enough to do for the tourists to like want to go there on their own. So they have to win the game so that they can get eyes on the town, and then getting eyes on the town will mean that they can get financing for this mall. That's the big thing. And there's one guy that on the hockey team, he's gonna make it. He's going to be the one that saves this game, that's going to win this game. And so he is like praised practically higher than God. They look at him like he's God, because he's going to be the one that puts the town back on the map. They tell that he has the same like skills and everything that another hockey player had, who actually got scouted by like a really big team, and like he went to another place, and then I think he fucked up his knee or something and he had to come back, and he's now the coach, or like a part of the coaching team for the hockey players here. But you have this one guy, I don't remember his name, he's like the star hockey player, and again, they act like he's God, which means he gets away with way too much fucking shit. But he also has a best friend, and that best friend also plays hockey, and he's the one that protects him in like the hockey rink. So whenever like something goes wrong or people go like towards the main star, his best friends like swoops in and like make sure that he's safe. So he also gets away with a lot of stuff, because they're like essentially like a duo package. Because the main guy, or like the main hockey player, I should say, he's not the main guy in the book, because again there's like 12 people that you read as, but the main hockey star, because he is praised honestly to the skies. He has such an inflated ego, it's crazy. He also has like anger issues, I think, because his parents don't really pay attention to him. It's like in the book, I don't care. And the reason I don't care is for something that happens halfway in the point, because they win the game. They win this really big game that they had to win, and he's the one that actually does win it. Like, he's the one that scores the most points and everything, so it's great. They have a big celebration, and to celebrate this guy invites like a bunch of people in the school, but also some younger people. Like, he's like, I think 17ish. The people that he invites, like, I think most of the school is invited, but like the daughter of the coach is invited by him, and I think she's like 15, 16 at most, but he invites her. There's like a bunch of things that happen at this party, but a lot of alcohol is drunk and everybody's underage, so that's like a big deal. There's also a trigger warning for assault. This guy gets the girl, like the 15-year-old girl, kind of drunk, and then takes her upstairs and sexually assaults her. That's, I think, the starting point for the conflict of the rest of the book. That's at least what I anticipated was going to happen, and I hated the fact that that was the conflict. Like, this book, for the most part, has been so fucking boring, right? Because it's just about hockey. It's just about this game, about the prep, the impact that it'll have on the town, but it's just, that's it. And that's, at least in my opinion, was incredibly boring, because like it was talk about what might happen. There was like no guarantee that it would happen. There was nothing that was like set in, so like nothing was really happening. It was all talk about what might have happened, or what might happen, what could be the consequences of. Like, it was all thoughts, like all hypothetical thoughts, and I just thought that was so boring. And then this is the conflict. The first conflict that happens in the book is sexual assault of a minor. That pissed me off to no extent. I read that scene and I quit the book. I said, no, fuck you. Because what do you mean your book, your entire book is about hockey and like how big it is for the town and everything, and you took, first of all, you took half the book to get there, right? Because I stopped at like 50%. So you took half your book to get to this big thing, and then your next your conflict when you actually get to the big game and everything, and after that's finished, the conflict that you're going to have is the assault of a minor. I said, no, fuck this book, and I DNF'd it, and I'm so glad I DNF'd it. I have no intention of ever picking this book up again, because even if that's not the main conflict, I also don't really want to know how they resolve it, but it's also just, it's boring. That's also my big thing with this book. I thought it was boring, and then again, the conflict is that, no. Then I read a book that I did really like. So we kick things off on a good note again, and that's Blood on Her Tongue by Johanna van Veen, a Dutch author. It's written in English, but it's a Dutch author, and I really like this book. It's like a gothic horror novel. With Blood on Her Tongue, you read about two twin sisters, Lucy and Sarah, and it takes place in like 1800s, something like that. Sarah lives with her husband, but she's starting to get ill. She's writing letters that are getting more and more chaotic, and so when Lucy receives them and she receives of her sister's illness, she travels to her estate to see what's happening, what's going on, why is Lucy sick. She's starting, like, the letters are getting like worrisome, and it's been happening after they found a dead body in the bog. She travels to the estate, finds her sister, and finds her sister's husband, and whatever is happening there, and you just read like what's going on. I thought it was a weird book, but again, that's a positive in horror. It was creepy, it was weird, but I liked it. I thought it was very good. It was interesting to read like to read a book in English, but read like Dutch names that my mind couldn't really comprehend that, because I was like, oh, that should be a Dutch name, but it's in English, but I'm gonna pronounce it Dutch. It was interesting. I liked it. I thought it was cool, creepy, very good horror novel. So if you're looking for something to put on your October TBR, I highly recommend Blood on Her Tongue. And after Blood on Her Tongue, I read A Dream on Ramona Riley. This is a sapphic romance novel. I've read quite a few other books from Ashley Herring Blake, specifically I think it's Whalefall series with Delilah Green Doesn't Care, but this is like the new series, and it starts with Dream on Ramona Riley, and it's Ramona lives in a town in, I think, Clover something, and she has very big dreams of becoming fashion designer, or like working with fashion. I think on movie sets is her dream, but she hasn't been able to reach those dreams, and she works in a coffee shop in Clover. I think it's Clover something. I don't exactly know the title of the place. And then you have Dylan, who is an actress but with a bit of a reputation. They have like a meet cute, fall in love, all the shenanigans, what have you. It's cute. Like I said, I've read quite a few other books by Ashley Herring Blake. I like the stories. I think they're cute. Are they like the most show-stopping books I've ever read? No, but they're very cute and sweet, and I like them. So I was very happy with this one. It was very good. It was a good book. I liked it. The next book I read was The Vegetarian from Hong Kong, which is, I would say, like pretty horror-esque. I don't know if it actually qualifies as that, but it's about a woman who stops eating meat and like actually like goes against her husband, which is like a big thing, but she also like slowly, I think, loses herself and loses her sanity. I like this book. I thought it was I thought it was well written, and I liked it. I thought it was cool. I will say, I think it might also just go over my head a little bit. There were some parts that I was just kind of like, wait, Wait, what? It was a little confusing at times, but I liked it. It was a cool book. Then I read All Systems Red. I reread this book. I read this book a few years ago, but I wanted to read the next book, so I figured I might as well read the first book because I couldn't really remember a whole lot about it. All Systems Red is the first story in the Murderbot series, and it's about this robot that was able to override its own protection system, and so Murderbot now has full awareness. And the reason why it's called Murderbot Diaries is because the robot named themselves Murderbot. That's their name. This book is about a mission where Murderbot is the protection robot for a bunch of scientists that are investigating or researching a new planet or a new area, a planet. This story is about how that all goes. It's a very short story, but it's really good. I liked it. Murderbot is very sassy and does not like people, but people are good for things, but they don't like people, which is a mood. I sometimes relate, or I can a lot of the times relate to Murderbot, which I don't know, I like it. It's fun, it's very sassy, and I had a good time. I liked it. I really thought it was fun. It has a lot of fun, but also a lot of emotion. And so if you're sci-fi with a sentient robot sounds very cool, I highly recommend it. You're through it in no time because it's very well written. It's easy to read, and it's a short book. So next up, I read House of Hollow. This was one of my choices for our book club. And it's a story about 3 sisters. You have Iris, Gray, and Phoebe. And when they were very small, they disappeared and then reappeared a while later. Nobody knows how what happened, how that came to be. They don't remember really what happened. But years later, one of the sisters, you read specifically as Iris, and one of her sisters goes missing. So I think her sister Gray goes missing, so together with Vivi, they go and look to see if they can find out what happened to Gray. That's the story. The story is just them trying to figure out what happened. It's a horror story, so there's some things that go wrong. I thought it was a very cool book. It's weird, but it's very interesting. I will say I did not really connect a whole lot with the characters. I finished this book specifically because I wanted to know how it ended. I thought where the story and everything was going was really, really interesting, and I wanted to know more about that. But I didn't really care about what happened to the characters because I didn't really feel any connection with the characters. That's one of the things that I did not really like about this book, but other than that, I really enjoyed it. I read through it pretty quick, and yeah, it's a good book. And then after I finished the first book of the Murderbot Diaries, I read the second book, Artifical Condition. I won't say too much about it because it does spoil how the first book ended, or at least a little bit of what happened. But in this one specifically, Murderbot realizes more about their humanity, because they have overwritten their governor module. What's the difference between a human, an augmented human, and a robot? All that stuff. And there's another character that appears in this book that's so fun, that has a really, really fun dynamic with Murderbot. So I really like this one. It is very different from the first book because of the setting, but it's still so fun and so sassy. I like it. I like it a lot. And then I read The Electric State, which is a book that has mostly art with a small part of the story, and it's a dystopian novel. People become sort of infected by electronica, and so there's a few survivors that have not succumbed to that, and you follow one specific survivor as she's looking for her brother, I believe. She has the help of a robot. One thing I love about this book is the artwork. The artwork is so cool. It's very ominous at points, like incredibly ominous and creepy, but it's also really beautiful. Like, the artwork is phenomenal. Honestly, it's incredible. Oh, and then I read The Cat Who Saved Books. Gorgeous book. Oh, it's so good. Something to know about me: I love cats. I love cats with my entire being. Like, hold on. I have a little cat on my desk or on my monitor. Truly love cats. So I have a few books that are like have to do with cats. They're a big part of the story. This is like a fantasy book. It's about a kid who loses their guardian, their legal guardian. They worked worked and lived in the bookstore, and he now has to leave because their legal guardian is no longer alive, and he has to go somewhere to stay with a relative to take care of him. He then meets this little guy. His name is Tiger. He and I think his name is Rinsato Natsuki. I think something along those lines. So sorry if I mispronounce it. And Tiger tells him that he has a quest for him. And I mean, it's a magical cat that talks. What are you not going to listen to him? So Rinsato goes on these quests. It's beautiful. Like, in these quests, like, there's like each quest has like a specific meaning, or like tries to share a specific meaning. I thought it was beautiful. I thought it was very well done. I learned later that there's a sequel. I have purchased it. I have not read it, but yeah, I'm very excited for the sequel. But it's a very cute and beautiful book that also deals with grief and like how one deals with that, and self-worth and so forth. Then I read another collection of short stories, which is She's Always Hungry from Eliza Clark. There's a collection of bunch of different horror stories. I liked it. Again, like I said with the previous anthology, like, not every short story is for me. Some I like better than others, but for the most part, I really like this book. I like the collection of stories. I thought it was cool. This was another book for the book club, Daisy Jones and the Six. And it's also the one book that we all agreed on we did not like. I've watched part of the TV series for it. I just didn't really care too much about it, so I didn't finish it. So then we read this book, and then I realized, yeah, no, I don't really care. I thought I would maybe care more with the book because you could like learn more about the characters, but I don't know, none of the characters really interested me. I thought everyone had made like odd decisions and remarks, and I couldn't really connect to anyone, and there was no one I really liked. I just couldn't find myself to care, is essentially it. Like, I didn't really care. Oh, I wasn't a fan of this. Not my vibe. Then there's Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil from V.E. Schwab. Oh my god. This is a sapphic vampire like horror story, maybe? I think so, because it's dark, but it's very good. I really liked it. I thought it was really interesting to like read the different like perspectives and timelines and everything like that. I thought it was incredible. Yeah, it's about vampires. You learn or you read about different vampires and different timelines. I haven't read anything else from V. Schwab, but reading this one I was like, maybe I should read something else. So if you have a book from her that you really like, let me know, because I am looking forward to reading other books of her, but I want to know what you think I should start with. Oh, and this book was heartbreaking. Yeah, this one was very, very sad. Not Quite Dead Yet from Holly Jackson. I read the entire Good Girl's Guide to Murder. Read the entire series. Really liked it because it's like easy to read, but it's interesting, and like I like the plot twists. Like, not every book in that series is as good as the others, but like I like the series in total. And so when I saw that she had a new book coming out called Not Quite Dead Yet, I was like, I should read that. And I'm very glad I did, because it's really good. From the cover and like the slogan, you know that like the main character is going to die. That's a given, because it's called Not Quite Dead Yet, and the hardest murder to solve is your own. But oh, even though knowing that, it was still heartbreaking. I thought it was really well written. At some points it was very sad. It's a tense and sad story, but it was very, very well done. I liked it. Another book for our book club is Six of Crows. It's a heist book, so it's like a thriller, crime, heist type of book with like some more mystical elements to it. I liked it. I thought it was good. I thought the story was very interesting. I will say, like, I like this book for what it is. I don't like the characters enough to read the second book. I like the story and the heist and everything, but I couldn't really connect to the characters as much as I would like. I liked the book for what it was, like the heist and everything. That was very interesting. I'm just not very interested in reading the others. But it was a good book, and I think most people would want to know what happens next. Just, this was enough for me. I Who Have Never Known Men is a very short dystopian book about a woman who we don't know her name. She's referred to as the Child, who has lived her entire life in a bunker together with, I think, like 40 other women. And she doesn't, like, she was essentially, I think, born there, or like there when she was a baby, so she doesn't know anything about her life before. She has not lived her life before, but all the other women in that bunker also don't know, like, they don't remember how they got there or what happened before. They only know like that right now, but the bunker is like the schedule, there's no light, there's no clock, nothing. The only way they can measure time is by how the child grows up. Like, that's the only estimate they have. And they're like in a bunker with guards like surrounding them. But it's like, it's just women. And then there is some male guards, but they don't talk to the women in the cages. They don't talk to each other, at least not that they see. And then something goes wrong, and they get out of the bunker. The rest of the story is like, what's gonna happen? Like, how are they going to progress? Like, what happened and everything. I thought it was a very interesting novel. I thought it was really good. I've never read anything like this, so I really liked it. It had me hooked. I think I read this in a day, because it's also just a very short book. I think it's like under 200 pages, but it's really good. So I highly recommend this one. Chuck Tingle is honestly one of my favorite horror authors. He also writes a lot of like erotica, which I have not read because that's not necessarily my cup of tea, but his horror novels are fucking incredible. And he released Lucky Day last year, and when it came out I immediately read it because I just really wanted to read it, and it's so good. This is also a horror novel, and immediately from the get-go this shit gets so crazy. The book starts off with Vera. She's having a party because she wrote a book, I think, about like the logistics, because she's very interested in like logistics and formulas and all that stuff, and she's having a party for her book. And then like essentially everything that could go, that you're like, no, this could not happen, like it could not have happened, happens, because there's like there's no guarantee that it won't ever happen. There's a bunch of like logistic thingies in it, but shit goes wrong. Like, let me tell you, shit goes fucking south really quickly. And then a while later, like, you still follow Vera a while later, like after this incident, and she gets in contact with a special agent who is investigating what happened because he has a specific idea of what went wrong, and he wants her help to try and like solve it because she's very good at like logistics. Together they go and try and figure out what went wrong, and it's a really, really good book. It's messed up, absolutely messed up, like horrific things happen, but it's so good. And it's also funny, like there's also funny moments, but it's kind of bad shit. It's kind of bad shit, which I really, really like. So if you like horror and weird stories, I do really recommend this one. It's so good. Oh, and I mentioned her before, R.F. Kuang. Yup, here she is again for Katabasis. I think that's how you pronounce it. I've seen different pronunciations of it online. I'm gonna say Katabasis. I read this book. Let me actually preface what it's about in case you don't know. It's a fantasy novel, but it's about two magic students. Like they study magic because it's fantasy, but they study magic and the arcana. These two students, Alice and Peter, are traveling to hell to save their professor because due to a malfunction in his pentagram, he ended up in hell. And so they travel to hell to get him out of there. But there's like very few people that have traveled to hell and gone back. I really, really liked this book. I thought it was incredible. There were some moments that for me were sometimes a little bit difficult to follow because it does, like, they are students, like they have specific things that they study. They both study magic, like they're working with the same professor, but there's specific parts of magic that they're studying. Alice does more linguistics and Peter does more logic based, like research and stuff. They sometimes explain things to each other, like why they're doing things or why they think like a certain thing about an theory, and they explain it then to us. So you do read like what they think or like a part of their research and stuff. So sometimes I was like, I'm gonna have to read that again before I could wrap my mind around it, but it's like, it wasn't too difficult. I know that there's some discourse about this book being like too much like a textbook, which I don't think is true in the slightest. Absolutely not. Like it's a fantasy novel. Like that's it. It's not a textbook. Like, is there sometimes a little bit of an explanation about the specific logistics or everything or anything like that? Like, yeah, there is. But it fits in the story because it's either linguistics that Alice is explaining to Peter, or it's logistics that Peter is explaining to Alice. Like, I don't think it's anything too crazy or, like, doesn't fit the book. Like, it fits the book perfectly, in my opinion. Yeah, I really liked this. I thought it was very well written, very cool, the description and everything. I thought it was just very well thought out. I really liked it. And this is it's a comic book. It's a collection of horror comics by Adam Ellis. Very cool. I love his art style and the stories and everything that he tells. So I'm a big fan. One thing I will say about this that I think it's the one thing I thought was a little sad is that with this book, I think, like, because I follow Adam Ellis on Patreon, like I support him on Patreon, and because I do that, I get access to like comics of his that he draws every once in a while, or like every few months he posts something on there. And the reason why I support him on Patreon is because I love his art style and his comics. But unfortunately in this book, like, half of the stories were stories that he also shared on Patreon. So half the book I had already read. Like, I completely understand that it's like not all new stories, but with his previous collection of stories, I think the percentage was a little bit different, or at least I didn't notice it as much. But with this one, I think it was like half. So I liked it because, again, I love his art style. I love his stories. I think they're incredibly cool. But it was a little sad to me to see that like quite a few stories I had already read. If you don't support him on Patreon, I think you will absolutely love this book if you love like horror comics, because he does them very well. This book is another one of the books that I chose for my book club, A Lonely Broadcast, book 1 by Cal Byron. And it's like a horror book that has like Lovecraftian cosmic horror in it. As you can see, it's like a tower, like a watchtower, but it's been turned into a broadcast tower for a specific radio show. You follow the story, or you follow the point of view of Evelyn. She has lived, like for the most part of her life, lived in Pine Haven, but eventually she moved away. Due to circumstances, she recently moved back to fill in part for the broadcast because she needed the cash. And so she also partially lives in the broadcast tower, but shit goes wrong really, really quickly because there are unnatural things in the woods and in the fog. And so you read her perspective as she is trying to figure out what the hell is going on and just trying to survive this job. And she has to survive that with her co-host that eventually joins her. But yeah, it's a really good book. I really liked it. I thought it was very cool. I really liked the creatures, and just the atmosphere was incredible. So, big fan. Then we have Carmilla. This is like a classic novel. It's a long time since this was written, I think. I don't know the exact year, but it's an old book. You read from the perspective or about Laura as she meets like the beautiful Carmilla, and yeah, and their existence together, whatever happens next. It's very cool. I really liked it. It's a very cool book, and it's like vampires, which I love vampires, but it also is like, it's sapphic, which I also really like. As a sapphic myself, it's I really liked it. I thought it was very cool. It's very short. I will say, as someone that doesn't natively speak English or read English, it was difficult at certain points because it's an old book, so it's a lot of old English, but I got through it pretty quick. So yeah, it's a very, very cool book. Okay, if you look at the cover of this book and the title, you might be like, what the fuck's this? Yeah, no, that continues the entire book, but it's really, really good. I really liked it. I Found Puppets Living in My Apartment Walls is one of the better books that I read this year. I really enjoyed it. It's about this young guy, I forgot his name, but his grandfather passes away, and he has to go to the apartment together with either his sister or his niece. I can't remember which of the two, but he has to go with a family member there to the apartment of his grandpa to clean it out. But his grandpa was a part of a like TV show that worked with big puppets, like the puppets you see on Sesame Street. Like, he was one of the people that puppeteered those puppets, and he still lives in the old studio. So the young guy, again, I'm so sorry I forgot his name, and his sister go to the apartment that is in the old studio to try and clean it out and clean up the belongings of his grandpa, when he notices that there's like puppets in the apartment walls, and like they follow them in the apartment to try and figure out where the puppets are coming from and what they're doing. It is a horror story, so you know, shit goes wrong. But I really, really liked this book because I think it did a really good job of portraying like how someone is dealing with their grief. Because the main character is obviously still grieving his grandfather, but I think it's like really, really well done the way it's written. And also this like in the end, the author explains a little bit about why he specifically wrote this story, and it's because of a fear of puppets, which makes sense, and you can actually like sense that fear through the book, which I think is really well done. I really like the book. It's not too long. It's incredibly interesting. I've never read another book like this. I do think that this author has like an entire I found ... series. So I think I'm gonna check out more of his work this year, but I really like this one. This book was weird as fuck. When I first read the title, Spread Me, I was like, okay, sounds interesting. I read another book by Sarah Gailey. I read Just Like Home, actually, which I really liked. It's a very creepy book, and I think it's very well done. So I was like, you know what? Yeah, sure, I'm gonna read this book. But whenever I looked up Spread Me, like on like specific book sites to try and find it so that I could like be like, oh yeah, I'm this many pages in, blah blah blah, that kind of stuff. Also, some other books would pop up, and I was like, yeah, it does have like a suggestive title, if you will, but you know, it's probably nothing to do with that, right? Yeah, that would be wrong. Don't read this in public. Don't. I read it on the train. So many regrets. So many regrets. Oh my god, this book gets weird really quickly. Really, really quickly. Someone's a little too fascinated with the potential virus that they might find. It's a horror story about a group of people that is somewhere like far out in the desert during COVID times, or at least a similar pandemic. And they are just researching there, trying to see like what is the earth they're made up of, and can they like find like signs that maybe there was like other types of dirt or like environments in that specific desert area. And they find something, and then shit gets weird. Oh my god, I honestly think this is the weirdest book I've ever read, which is saying something considering I just showed you this book. This book is weirder. You might not say, but this book is weirder. It is a good book though. I wouldn't say I enjoyed reading it, because it did make me very uncomfortable, but it's a good book. I liked it. I will definitely read more from this author, because I like the way they write weird fucking shit. But yeah, no, this was a weird book for sure. If you're squeamish, I wouldn't recommend this. It gets a little nasty, but it's a very good book. As you might be able to tell, like there's a few horror books like in a row. That's because I read most of these in October, because I wanted to try and read more horror in October. I also watched a horror movie every day in October, and I wanted to match that with like the books that I was reading. So I read Camp Slaughter. It was in a video done by Gab Smolders here on YouTube. She talks about the books that she's read for the past month or so. She does that every once in a while, and this book came up, and I was like, you know what, that sounds cool, I will read that. I unfortunately did not really like this book, which I was very surprised by, because like I really like slasher. Like I like slasher movies, I like slasher books, but with this one I did not like it. I will say, like the horror aspect, I think that's very well done. Like the tension and the atmosphere, that's really well built up, but I don't know, I did not really like the way that the killer was written, because I'm trying to think, is it a spoiler? No, it's not really a spoiler, but like the killer is somehow both incredibly smart and at the same time someone that, like, there's a few moments in the book where they like allude that he has some kind of mental disability, and that he's like, that maybe his mental age is not matching up to his like physical age, and something along those lines. So it's very odd to me that it's like someone that would need assistance with a lot of things, because he does need assistance with a lot of things. Like also is really well thought out for his like killing sprees and all that things. Like he's really well focused, well planned, well spoken at moments, and then in other moments it's just like essentially acting like a teenager or a child in an adult man's body. it felt weird to me, so I did not like it. I did not really like the way that the killer was written. Like, I think it's very cool and creepy that like everybody can be a victim, like even the children. The killer doesn't give a damn. You don't often see that in horror books. Usually there's like something that won't be touched, like kids are usually safe, but in this book, no, he did not care. So that really built up the tension, because it's like, oh, he'll just do anything. But yeah, the way the killer was written kind of ruined it for me a little. And then I read the second book for A Lonely Broadcast, Broadcast Book 2. Love the books. Think the titles could use some work. I won't explain too much about this book because I don't want to spoil it, because it does spoil like how the previous book ended. But as you can see on the cover, there's a lot more that goes wrong. The cosmic horror does amp up, but I think it's really well done. I think it really nicely picks up where the previous book left off, and I think the way that the horror and everything is described in this one is just really well done. And also the atmosphere, like it's really tense because literally anything can happen. So I enjoyed it. I really liked it. I also bought the physical editions of this book after reading it, because I was like, that's cool. And the author was selling physical editions with like notes and doodles in them. Then I read a manga from Junji Ito. Oh my god, this is incredible. The art for this book is fucking creepy as shit, dude. Like, it's so scary and nasty and creepy. It's very good. It's very good. I liked it. And I hated it at the same time at some point, because it made me uncomfortable. The oil one is nasty. That one made me like, ooh. No thank you, no thank you. Artwork is incredible. This is also, it does say like selected stories. This is like a collection of Junji Ito, his like horror mangas. And one thing I really liked is that it has like a little note from Junji Ito about like what the idea behind it was, or where he got the inspiration from. And then on the other side of the page there's like actual like sketches and like ideas not fully fleshed out yet. I think that is really nice. It just really adds, I don't know, I like that it's like added context and like seeing where someone's mind was at the first draft and where it ended up. I think that's very cool. I really like this one. The Midnight Library. I read this book for the book club. It's one of my friend's choices. I don't know, it's an okay book. I didn't hate it, I didn't love it. It's a fantasy book about a girl whose name I forgot, who tries to end her own life, and she ends up in a library where it's always midnight, so Midnight Library. This library grants her the possibility to step into other versions of her life to see if she might like those lives more, and she can like test them out and try and see what she wants from life. Yeah, the book's just about her process in that. I have conflicting thoughts about this book, because on one point like it's very interesting, like that concept of trying different lives to try and figure out what you want from life, but it's just, I don't know, the way the main character is written and the things like she does or says, I'm just like, what? It's for me, this book is just it's just you know, sometimes you just have a book that's like that. It's not a bad book, it's just also not a great book, I would say. At least in my opinion, I didn't like it that much. I read another sapphic novel. I read Windburn, which is the first book in the series Crow's Coven. It's like a fantasy romance. Well, it's a romance book with some fantasy in it. This is another book that I was like, I did not really like, which surprised me because it has witches. It has sapphic witches. I love witches and I love sapphics. Why did I not love this book? They're adults, but they don't talk. They don't talk like adults. Like they don't communicate. They don't really like think things through. They just keep everything inside, and it festers and it then causes problems, and then like the moment they have one conversation, it's like, oh, actually we're on the same page. I'm like, yeah, if you just fucking talked. And nothing grinds my gears more than when people don't communicate. Like if it's teenagers or something, like in young adult novels, if they don't really talk through things or don't tell people, I'm okay with it, because they're, you know, they're kids, they're growing up, they're trying to figure out who they can trust and whatnot. If you as an adult cannot speak your mind, you're gonna piss me off. And like, I don't mean like you have to say every single thing that comes in your mind, but like if you're forming a relationship with someone, you should communicate about what that entails. But they don't do that. They don't do that, and that annoys me. What's also never fully explained is the powers, and that also annoys me, because it, like, they have very cool witchy powers. We just don't really know what they do. We're not really told how their powers came to be, what their powers entail, all the things they can do with the powers. Nothing. It's just they have powers. That's it. I'm like, tell me more. Their powers are somehow connected to their emotions, and I'm like, okay, cool. Tell me more. More context would be lovely. I would like some more context. We are not given that. No, we are not. It is the first in a series, so you might figure that out in later parts, but I have no interest in figuring it out in later parts, because I would like to know it now. And you didn't tell me, so I don't like the characters enough to read more. The next book is like going to be another sister in the family, and I don't care. Not the vibe that I was looking for. This was another choice from one of my friends for our book club, Project Hail Mary, and this one I really liked. I won't say too much about it, because I think for this book it's best if you go in blind, because it gets kind of crazy. But essentially what it is the world is dying, and they have to go to space to figure out how they can save the Earth. And the person that goes in the spaceship to try and figure out a way to save the Earth with things he can find in space, he can't remember anything. He can't even remember his name. He has to try and figure out like who he is and what he's doing there and why he is supposed to do it. He has to like figure all that stuff out before like the world essentially ends. It's a really good book. I really liked it. I had a lot of fun, and I'm really looking forward to the movie. I'm very excited about that. For our book club, I was allowed to pick the book in December. Sorry, I said that very Dutchly. But I was like, you know what? Why not finish the year with a Christmas thriller murder story? So I picked 12 Ways to Kill Your Family at Christmas. I'll be honest, it wasn't really a great book. It was my choice. Okay, so I'll tell a little bit about what the book's about, but from the title you can probably tell that's about a family that's celebrating Christmas together. You read from the point of view of Olivia. She is married into this family, and they're all celebrating Christmas together, and this probably is the last year that they'll be able to celebrate it all together, because she, her husband, and their 2 kids are moving to Australia because they have had it with this family. They're not really big fans of it, and they just want to get away. So this is the last year that they'll celebrate Christmas as with the entire family. And then one by one, people start dying, and they have to figure out who is killing the family members and why. And essentially, like, that's the book. It's a whodunit. I usually love whodunits. Like, I love Knives Out, the Hercule Poirot books, or movies, the books as well. But like, I really like a whodunit. I love a thriller, but this book just did not really hit for me. Like, when people start dying, there's like practically no emotion. They all just go about their merry way. It doesn't really have any impact on how they, like, on what they were going to do or anything. Like, it doesn't change a thing. Nobody, essentially nobody really cares. But also, this family is just fucking insufferable. They all suck. Like, literally all of them. I think the only, like, nice characters in this book are, like, two of the kids, but even they are, like, mean at times. The only one that's nice is the dog. The rest just sucks. They all just suck. And when you have, like every character sucks. If people start dying, you just don't care, because everybody sucks. So, like, why do I care if, like, the aunt dies? I don't. Because she sucks. Like, it was very difficult for me to care about what was happening in the book because I didn't care who it was happening to, because I didn't care about the characters. I think the title gives a whole lot away, so it wasn't for me. Wasn't a big fan of it. Another book I wasn't a big fan of, unfortunately, is Wake Up and Open Your Eyes from Clay McLeod Chap. I read Ghost Eaters, I think last year, and I really liked that book. I thought it was really cool and really well done and very interesting. So when I was looking for another book to read and I saw that I had this one, I was like, yeah, no, absolutely. I really like Chapman's book. This book is so weird. It's a horror book. It's another horror book, and it's essentially like this family that gets, like, it's a sort of anti-MAGA mentality, which, like, that's, like, good and interesting, and it makes fun of, like, MAGA people and stuff like that. But it just, I think the thing for me that really, like, I think I would have really liked this book had it not been so sexual, because for some fucking reason, like, it's a horror book and people, like, essentially get kind of possessed or infected by right-wing media, and at one point they start attacking other people, and you read it from the specific point of view of of the main character, and that it's, like, happening to his family members, and then you realize that it's like, no, it's happening in, like, most of America. For some reason, like, if it had just been, like, the possession and the violence and attacking and stuff, I would have understood that, but it becomes really sexual really quickly, and there's, like, quite a few sections that are talking about how the people that are possessed are doing specific sexual acts, and it's very, like, there's a lot of sexual sections in this book, and I don't know why. Like, I don't understand why that was in this book, because to me, like, I read it, maybe I read over it or I didn't understand it, but I don't understand why it's there. Like, to me it doesn't make sense. The violence I can understand, because they're, like, that's with, like, any zombie book or anything, like, they want to spread the virus and stuff like that, so that would make sense, right? They spread it through violence. The sexual acts just feel so weird and uncomfortable, so I did not like that. That felt so weird. It just felt weird to be, like, it felt like it was added there to make you uncomfortable, but it didn't have anything to do with the plot. And I don't like when books do that. Like, I don't like adding something purely for shock value. Like, the fact that your family is attacking you is shock value enough. You don't have to just add this weird thing to make it more uncomfortable. Like, the concept isn't uncomfortable enough. You don't need to add something like this. This is another short book, Merciless Waters. And this is like a, I think also like a horror book. I think either a horror book or like maybe a little bit of fantasy, but it's about a group of women that are aboard of a ship and they don't remember their past, they only know their future. But at some point they find a man in the water and they pick him up, and then some of the women start remembering their past and things go very wrong. But I really liked it. It's a short, it's quite short, but I think it's well done. I liked it. I thought it was interesting. It's a decent book. Oh, another story where people piss me off. Okay, The Christmas Swap, another sapphic love story, and this one is also Christmas themed. I read it in December because why not? This story is about it essentially follows three people. You follow Margot, Ben, and Ellie. And Margot and Ben have struck a deal. They've met through the company where they work for, or at least Margot owns her own company and Ben owns his own company, and they are collaborating on something together. They've become friends through their connection at work, and Ben is like in his 30s and he has never had a partner to bring home for Christmas. And every year his family like asks him about like if he's dating someone, who he's dating, like he keeps getting like asked about it and he doesn't want that anymore. So when he learns that Margot is spending this first Christmas alone because her grandma passed away and she doesn't want to spend it with her mother, he asks her to join him for their like family Christmas getaway as his fake girlfriend, so that he has someone to like essentially show off to his family so that he doesn't feel like an outsider, and so that Margot has someone to spend the Christmas time with because he doesn't want her to spend it on her own. She says yes, they go there. There's no way for them to fall in love because Margot is a lesbian, and then she meets Ellie, Ben's sister, and she realizes that she actually really likes Ellie, and it's about their like relationship together while Margot is fake dating Ben. Complicated story from the get-go, but oh my god, these people don't talk. Like, communication is a big thing in this like book. They have very bad communication, incredibly bad communication, and like they make assumptions about each other. Specifically Ellie makes a fuck ton of assumptions about Margot and like Ben and the situation. Like even with just like a sliver of information, she's immediately like, I know what's happening, and is extremely upset. And then it's like, but that's not what's happening. You just made that up. You just made that up with like a morsel of information, and you created an entire thing around it that is incorrect. And it's just, they're in their 30s, right? They're all in their 30s, yet they all act like they're 18, 19 years old, and that annoys me. One thing that annoys me as well is that specifically in the book they're like, oh, well, we'll be careful, we'll be so careful, no one will figure it out. And then they proceed to just make out in the hallway, in the house, when everybody's at home. Their quote-unquote dates are like in the yard where everybody can see them. They are continuously so not careful. It annoys me. It annoys me, and it made me feel bad for Ben. And I was like, why am I feeling bad for a man in a sapphic love story? What? No. Why is a man there? Why would a man be there? Why do you want me to feel bad about the man? Like that. But also Ben sometimes kind of sucks. Like they all kind of suck. They all say incredibly mean shit to each other from time to time. They're all annoying, and other things that happen in the book don't really make a whole lot of sense to me. Oh, this book pissed me off more than I would like it to. It didn't give me the warm, cozy Christmas vibe that I was going for, unfortunately. I decided to end the year with a horror novel that I've been looking forward to, The Unworthy, by Agustina Basterica. I hope I pronounced that right, so sorry if I didn't. It's this author also wrote Tender as the Flesh, which is a really fucked up horror story, which I didn't like at first, but then the more I sat with it, the more I was like, it's actually very good. But this book I immediately liked. It's a book that I would recommend like looking up the triggers for if you're like sensitive to specific subjects, because it is a messed up book. But I really liked it. I thought it was really interesting. Like I said, it's a horror novel, and it's a dystopian world, or like a dystopian novel. So the world as they know it has completely gone into disarray for not really disclosed reasons. Like you learn a little bit about what happened, about the world as it went, and it's like implied with like climate change and like things that could theoretically happen. I think as time goes on, it's that kind of dystopian novel. Okay, so the House of the Sacred Sisterhood is like a religion, and it's based up of different tiers. You have the Unworthy. One of the Unworthy is writing the diary that you're reading. You have minor saints. You have the Chosen, the Enlightened, you have the Superior Sister, and then you have like him, the man that's like determining, I don't know, everything essentially. And the House of the Sacred Sisterhood is entirely made up of women, but the person that they're like listening to is a man, and he's the only man that's allowed to be there. And you read the diary of one of the Unworthy as she is writing down like what's happening in the House of the Sacred Sisterhood, and like a little bit about her past. And one thing I really found interesting is like it's genuinely like a diary. So sometimes the story just stops in the middle of a sentence because like she has to put away her diary so that nobody can see that she's writing, because you're not allowed to write. It's a really good book. I really like the way it's written. It's very sad and just disheartening. So in that case, it was a tough read to get through, because it hurts. It's like just genuinely like, that happened to a person. I mean, it is a fictional person, but still, you're like, damn, that's fucking horrible. I did really, really like this book. I think it was very well written, and no matter how messed up it was, I thought it was great. And that is the last book that I read in 2025, and I thought I'd rank them. Okay, and this would be my ranking for these books. So in the S tier, or let's go up from F. So in F tier, the lowest tier I would give to Beartown. I mean, obviously, fucking hate that book. Then in E tier, I would place 12 Ways to Kill Your Family at Christmas, Daisy Jones and the Six, Camp Slaughter, Defy the Night, and Once Upon a Broken Heart. In this order, so I did like 12 Ways to Kill Your Family at Christmas best, and Once Upon a Broken Heart worst in that lineup. But yeah, no, those would be in E tier. Then in D tier, I would place Wake Up and Open Your Eyes, The Midnight Library, Windburn, and The Book That Wouldn't Burn. Again, in that order, I liked Wake Up and Open Your Eyes better than I liked The Book That Wouldn't Burn. C tier would be Dream On, Ramona Riley, Six of Crows, Ghost Station, Spread Me, Whalefall, Has Anyone Seen Charlotte Salter, The Vegetarian, and The Christmas Swap. Which, funny enough, that tier starts with a sapphic romance and ends with a sapphic romance. I didn't notice that until now. B tier for me would be The Unworthy, Blood on Her Tongue, Carmilla, House of Hollow, She Is Always Hungry, and Merciless Waters. A tier would be Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil, Not Quite Dead Yet, The Electric State, A Lonely Broadcast, Book 1 and Book 2. I Found Puppets Living in My Apartment Walls, All Systems Red, Artifical Condition, Out There Screaming, Lucky Day, I Who Have Never Known Men, and Project Hail Mary would be an A tier. S tier would be Sunrise and the Reaping, The Cat Who Saved Books, The Trees, Katabasis, The Last Bloodcarver, His Mortal Demise, The House of My Mother, Let Me In Your Window, Shiver, and Spooky Lakes. This is at least like my my ranking right now. I don't know, like maybe if I thought about it more, or if I like start like, this is my ranking for right now. This, like, it might change over time, but for right now this would be my ranking. I really like the ones in S tier are my favorites. So I like, out of the ones that I read, I really liked it. A tier is also really solid. B tier is also still very good, but they maybe more the books that I was like I think is very good, but it also has like some points that I found like maybe difficult to read. C tier would be just like, those are just fine books, they're all right, I have nothing against them, it's just, that's all right. D tier would be the books that I'm like, E tier are books that disappointed me, or I didn't like. And F is specifically for the books I DNF'd, which is only this year would be Beartown. Because fuck that book. Sorry, I had to say it again. Fuck that book. I did not like it. But yeah, those are all the books I've read this year. And that's going to be it for me for this video. Like I said, it's a very different video than I normally post, but I do really hope you enjoyed me rambling on about the books that I read and what I thought about them. If you have any book recommendations, please leave them in the comments. Like I said, I love reading and I don't mind reading other genres. So if you have any recommendations, I would love to hear about them. It's the first video of 2026, so I want to wish you all a happy and healthy 2026 or 2026. This is going to be it for me for this video. I hope you have a lovely day, night, or whatever you are. I hope to see you in the next video. All right. Bye.